Creator Sam Kieth passed away March 15th. Kieth was known for his series The Maxx, which Kumar and Dana discussed here on the show way back in 2012. This week we represent that episode. It's a flashback to May 28th, 2012. First, I want to thank our patrons for helping to keep the show going. You can pitch in by pledging at least $2 a month at patreon.com/deconcomics.
This is Kumar.
This is Dana.
And this is Deconstructing Comics. Welcome to Deconstructing Comics. This is Kumar in Melbourne, and Dana's in Saitama as usual. Today we're going to talk about everyone's favorite codependent and mentally imbalanced feminist hobo superhero, Sam Kieth The Maxx, which is, this year's the 20th anniversary of Image Comics, so it's kind of appropriate that we're talking about The Maxx, which came in on this kind of the second wave, I guess, or maybe a little bit later after the first round of Image titles, and was very, very out of place. I don't know that. Well, Shadowhawk was the other one. That was, I don't know how Jim Valentino ended up on the Image Founders, because he didn't strike me as one of the quote unquote hot artists at the time. But that book was a bit weird, and just in terms of the art style, it was a weird book in general. Nothing like this, but anyway. And you read the whole thing when it came out the first time, right?
Yeah, that's right. That was one of the very few books that I actually collected as it was published. I kind of want to talk about how and why I got into the Maxx, but I'll let you finish your little intro thing first. Yeah,
this is kind of your baby, because I remember I read a lot of your copies. And I recently found out, because I wrote that review of Epicurus the Sage, you had read that too. So were you into Sam Kieth before you read The Maxx, or was that after?
No, I'm pretty sure that The Maxx was my introduction to Sam Kieth.
Okay.
And then from The Maxx, I kind of tracked down Epicurus. There was another I Before E. He did.
Okay, yeah.
It was like maybe 2 books or something. It was just like a very few books that were published, and I was never able to track any of those down, sadly.
Okay.
But yeah, I kind of went on to find some of his like Hulk stuff. He did like a Hulk Wolverine crossover later, which I thought had some of at least. Yeah, so I kind of got into him, I think, because of the Maxx.
Okay, so how did you get into it?
Well, I don't know if this is interesting to anyone other than me, but because this book was kind of important for me in terms of getting into comics. I was already reading a lot of stuff, but I kind of, as a comics reader, I sort of had this long period of sort of being a wannabe. It's like I didn't want to collect the X-Men or any of the X-Men books because all my friends were collecting them. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to collect Superman because it appealed to me, had zero appeal to me. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of went through this like several years process of like, I want to be collecting a book, but I didn't want to be collecting the same book that everybody else was collecting. That's just me. I went through a stint of, I was buying the Blue Beetle for a while.
Wow.
Yeah. So I kind of, there were a few like weird books that I kind of collected. Armor what was the publisher?
Oh, that was Continuity. That was a Neil Adams thing, right? I think
that's a really ironic publisher for Armor, since the first issue came out something like 3 to 5 years before the second issue. So anyway, I had all these kind of weird books that I tried to collect that never came out, and then when Image started up, I was like, oh wow, there's this whole new set of options, and I bought some of the Image Presents or whatever they were called, the sort of collections where they had three or I guess 3 of their planned books in a collection, and then ended up settling on the map. I bought some Pitt. I bought some of the other. What else did I can't remember. But anyway, it was all kind of.
I think you read.
It wasn't all garbage,
too, didn't you? The Dale Keown Pitt. I seem to recall you sticking with that for quite a while, right?
Maybe like a dozen issues or something.
I think he only did about a 9. So if you did,
I probably did I probably read what he did.
That's yeah.
But yeah, like none of it ever grabbed me, and then Kieth, The Maxx was this book that I was like, oh, okay, here's something different that no one's buying, and I had no idea. I just was looking for something, and boom, I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
And that's the effect. That's the effect this book had on me, and that's why I love it. It's got a ton of flaws that we'll probably hit on, but yeah. Anyway, that's my story.
That boom was it's funny because I had read it before, not the whole thing, as I said, but I had read a lot of yours copies, and reading it this time, just page 1, issue 1, page 1, it's just like boom, like what the hell is this? It's this superhero living in a cardboard box in an alley, and he's obsessed with Cheers. And it's all on page 1. It's just like what? And the panel's just like this weirdo shape, and it's just like this scalloped out cutout. I just can't even describe the weirdness of it.
Nothing about the way this comic, like when you buy it and you open it and you from the first page to the end of the first issue, nothing about this comic reads or looks or feels in the way that coming from that world that I was coming from, that I felt that comics should read and feel and look.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the impact of it was.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, because I was also thinking while reading it how people didn't talk about it much at the time, and people still don't talk about it. And yet it was 35 issues, and it seems almost unknown. Like, I wonder how many people have actually heard about it these days.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he had regular letters pages at the back, and he bizarrely had this classified section, with hundreds of classified ads. Like, people were reading the Maxx and sending in hundreds of classified. Some of them were like looking for pen pals, and some of them was like he had like some marketplace like looking for Nirvana bootlegs. Like, why are these advertising for this in the Maxx? It was the weirdest. And I'm not even talking about the comics. That was just like the back matter. So somebody out there was reading it. There was some kind of cult underground readership for this thing. And yet somehow the overground was not talking about it, I don't think. And you were the only person I knew that was reading it. I don't know what the sales were like, but
I'm the only person that I know that bought it. You and I've got maybe another friend or two. I've got one other friend who's really into it because I lent her. I think she actually is holding my physical copies now still. But I don't know anyone else who's read it or even knows of it, kind of thing. It's really kind of slipped under the radar, which is interesting because to me it was such it had such an impact. That it wasn't a book that I was like, okay, you might not like it, you might hate it, whatever, but how can you ignore it, kind of thing. Especially being Image as well, and I think that's something that's really important, that it wasn't something he published on his own. It really felt like it should have been, maybe, but this was Image.
Yeah, I think there was kind of a after that first initial Image wave, I think the people that were reading Image comics reacted really negatively to anything that was not in the house style, if you know what I mean.
Right, yeah.
If you were doing something that was very different, I think people had a really negative reaction to that. The normal Image readers, because I think at the time when they came out, all the books were crossing over with each other, which we'll get to, because it does affect the Maxx a bit. And they were all kind of the same. They all just came out of the same basket, Yeah. And so people who were reading one were reading the other 6 titles as well, as infrequently as they came out. They were reading all of them. So something like the Maxx would have been violently different.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, too. I noticed sometimes, because we'll talk about the art more, too, but the layouts were really crazy, and all of the Image artists had really crazy layouts. But they used them in fight scenes, and it made it really unintelligible. Like, you couldn't tell what was going on. But in the Maxx, often it really works because it was reflecting what was going on psychologically with people.
Yeah, and so regarding that kind of thing psychologically, and also, he has, of course, which is kind of a story point, but there's like these two realities. Oh, well, maybe more than two, but essentially for the first 20 issues, there's these two realities. There's what we consider to be our real world, and then there's this outback, which some of the characters claim is the actual real world. But Max is constantly flipping back and forth through them, and there's he uses a lot of layouts where you almost have these spokes of, one spoke of the wheel is the outback, and the next spoke is the real world and outback, and so you kind of have these almost like the shadows of a fan blade. In fact, that might even be what they are in some cases. That the shadows of a fan blade are. The shadows are revealing the reality / fantasy underneath, and he's kind of using those layouts to express, as you said, the psychological states, but also
and metaphysical
states of reality.
Yeah, which is, those are heavy, central themes. I can't even call them themes. It's what the book is about. It's about psychological, metaphysical states, and also about a lot of deep things throughout the 35 issues, like abandonment, subconscious, sexuality, feminism, gender, emotional pain, anguish, all this really heavy stuff, which is why the first, 5, 6, 7, 8 issues are a bit odd, which we should talk about, because it almost sells itself as a superhero book, a little bit.
I think it does.
Yeah.
However, it does it, and I wouldn't. Well, with a tongue in cheek, or it sells it as it is a superhero book, or at least the Max thinks he's a superhero. But the other characters, Julie Winters, his his friend / the woman he tries to protect, with strong air quotes around that. She even says, look, you're not a superhero. You're a homeless guy, and we're in this codependent relationship. So even in those early issues, you've got this sort of, he's very much a superhero. Mr. Gone, the villain, is, very much the sort of typical villain. He's just a bad guy. He just goes around killing, and no, he doesn't kill a lot of people. He rapes women and just does bad things with magic.
I was also going to say about Mr. Gone that early on you see a cape. He's wearing a cape, and it's very much like Todd McFarlane's Spawn. It's just this huge thing that occupies the whole page.
And it's alive as well. I think there's some throwaway. I think there's some throwaway line somewhere. Somebody describes it as being alive. Maybe it isn't actually alive, but
right. Yeah, and there's something like the way that the sound effects are lettered in the first issue was very much of the way all the Image books were being lettered at that time. So there was something about the physical look of it, and that cape, it was looking like those other books a little bit. But then there was a lot of stuff going on in the background, like this whole, the sexuality of Julie, where there's this, he's often got her in these kind of sexy poses, and then he's got this line where he says, here we are just hanging out getting a tan, but someone could read pinups just in the way I'm standing here. And, that's exactly what it is. It's the weirdest. He's kind of undercutting what the other Image books are doing.
I think, and I also think that he undercuts what he's doing.
Yeah.
He undercuts himself. So that exact line that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And all, there's this whole thing with Julie Winters that she's always going on about how people who have a problem with women are whatever, they have a problem with women, and it's possible that people could misconstrue the way that we're dressed right now as being sexually forward or whatever. But Sam Kieth consistently draws her, not only wearing sort of really revealing clothes, but just the way she frickin' stands. But at the same time, I think you could probably just sort of knee jerk and say, hey man, like, Sam Kieth, what are you doing? You're screwing up. But I don't think he's. I think he's aware of what he's doing, and whether it works or not, like he's kind of. I think he's intentionally undercutting himself.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's all kinds of contrasting messages coming through.
I think he's very in control of the art. My feeling was that he knew what he was doing. I think he was kind of manipulating. Maybe I shouldn't say manipulating the reader, but I think he was forcing the reader to a position where they had to question what they themselves were. I don't know, because it was all those other image books. They were pinups, like they were using these women sexually deliberately like that. I didn't really see that Sam Kieth was drawing them, Julie, in a particularly different way.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where that line came from, but it just seemed barbed, with the other.
Yeah, definitely.
And at the readers for seeing it that way. Anyway, should we talk about a little bit about how the plot shapes, at least partially? Because I was thinking about this, I really didn't know where to start with it. Because it's never. It's funny the way he writes the issues, because sometimes you're not sure what happened until the next issue when somebody states it explicitly.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, like there's one issue where she's got a knife against the guy's throat and you don't know what happens, and the next, it's like 2 issues later, they're like, oh yeah, she killed him. And I was like, oh, is that what happened?
Yeah, I agree. He does that quite a lot, and I think that's one of the flaws of the book. I don't think that a writer should have to, explicitly explain, kind of go back and explain what happened before to the readers. But I think that. I don't know. I think on some levels that Sam Kieth is a good writer. He certainly put together a very compelling story here. But yeah, I think that those moments where it's like, oh yeah, he cut off her, he cut off his head, or she cut off his head, or oh yeah, this character's in the hospital. Like, oh okay, well I thought she was dead, or I assume.
Right. Yeah.
There's ambiguity, and an ambiguity is not necessarily bad, but then, as you say, like kind of a couple issues later, he goes back and is like, oh yeah, this is the situation there.
Right.
Almost as though he had perhaps intended something and then changed it.
It's funny because individual issues, I thought they were so well structured.
Yeah.
And then I didn't realize that something was missing until later on when somebody said, oh, that guy's dead. I'm like, oh, he's dead? And now I have to go back 2 issues and see when he died, and it happens off panel. I guess that's the thing, is stuff happens off panel. And it's made reference to later. So that was kind of an issue looking backwards through it. But anyway, what the hell is it about?
Oh man, what's it about? It was kind of neat, what he does. Just in the broadest of strokes, is I think it's the first 20 issues. Am I right?
Yeah.
The first 20 issues are essentially the story of the Maxx, or Dave, and Julie Winters. And then, is it 20 or 15? I can't remember.
It's exactly 20, because 21...
It is the first 20.
Yeah, is the one where this...
And... That's right. In issue 21, we have a leap forward of 10 years.
Yeah.
And suddenly the story focus is now on Sarah, who was a 15-year-old character that was in the first 20 issues, friend of Julie and Max's, but kind of not really focused on. And then yes, the last from 21 to 35, those last 15 issues. Focus very much on the story of Sarah, and I hope this isn't too big of a spoiler, but also Mr. Gone, and some other characters come back, but it's basically Sarah and Mr. Gone's story. However, it kind of all ties in. With all the characters. Everything is really kind of nicely tied up, and it doesn't feel like it's going to tie up at any point until the last issue.
That was we'll talk about a bit more about those last issue specifically. But I wondered how much was. Well, we should talk about the first half too, the whole Julie Winters arc, because she's a kind of freelance social worker. I don't know if she's licensed or what the story is, but she kind of helps out homeless people. And
I think not licensed. I think that's pretty clear that she's basically just doing it on her own.
Yeah. Okay. And she has this outback, which is her subconscious, basically. Oh my God, what am I doing here? And Mr. Gone is going around raping women, and then these little creatures show up called the Is. They're little eyeless, cute little lemming things, and but whatever costume they wear, to normal humans, they look like a human wearing that outfit. Only the Maxx can see them. So there's a bit of kind of superheroing around where he goes around and fights them and stuff. Yeah. And then we get more of why Julie's outback is the way it is, and
I mean, it's damaged, and definitely.
Exactly. It's damaged, and why, what her mental issues are, or emotional issues, I should say, and her relationship with the Maxx, and what is the Maxx really like? Because somehow he's connected to her subconscious in some way, and we don't know what that relationship is. Yeah. Exactly, and that all builds together, and finally we get the answers of where he came from and why he has these powers, and why she is the way she is, and why Mr. Gone is the way he is. But that's gone into even more in the second half of the series. But the thing I really wondered was how much of it was all planned, because it just seemed like in ways it felt very random. Like, it felt like he drew the Maxx, he drew this character design, and then a few issues in, he noticed that he looked a little bit like a bunny rabbit. So he started working, hey, maybe I'll work in this plot line where, like, Julie's spirit animal is this rabbit, It almost felt like he just noticed stuff that he himself had done. Like, there was another thing was the Julie in her spirit version is the Leopard Queen or something like that.
Yep, the Leopard Queen. Exactly.
There's this one scene where she's brushing the hair on this doll till it's almost falling out, and then like 10, 15 issues later, you get this whole thing about Julie's backstory where she finds this dying rabbit on the road and she keeps it, and then she hears a scratching, and it's like the scratching of hair on a doll if you're brushing it too hard. It's like, when he wrote that first scene with the doll and the leopard, did he know exactly why that sound was there?
Yeah. It is really interesting. And the sense I get from sort of reading this, and this time reading it was really a cover to cover sort of, sitting down in 2 or 3 sessions and just plowing through it. And it reads kind of like improv. I don't know, I don't know if you've kind of gone to an improv. I know you've done improv, but when you go to like an improv show, and I don't mean like one comic stand-up improv, but when you watch like 3 or 4 guys, and I mean there's various TV shows that have kind of used these improv techniques. Like that's kind of what you do. You one actor will sort of latch onto something that another actor does, and whether that was intended as significant or not, it becomes significant because that actor kind of grabs it and uses it. And that's kind of how this comic reads. And I mean, is it planned, or is it just kind of it sometimes looks planned or feels planned because he's taking stuff from issue 5 and it shows up in issue 14 or even stuff in issue, God, there's like a throwaway character, one of the thugs in issue 1. Yeah. Shows up like in issue 30.
Yeah.
So there's and not just as a throwaway character, but kind of as part of the story. I mean, he's not central or anything, but there he is, Whatever happened to him? Oh, that's what happened to him.
But I think it's to me more interesting in that it was the character seems psychologically complete. Like, he really understands these characters, and they're all very damaged and wounded. And that's a very difficult thing to write. Yeah. So to me, something like, if you're going to write that kind of character, you have to have that the hair brushing of the doll thing, you have to know all that beforehand.
Mm.
You know, I feel that way, and so I feel like that he had to know what he was doing in some way, early on. I don't know that he was, but it felt that way to me, which contradicts what I said before about how I felt like he was just picking stuff out from earlier.
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe he was, but I do think that your comment that he knows the characters, you know, whether the plot points or the exact images or things are sort of planned out. I would agree with you. I think he really knows the characters, and that really comes through in the story. There's all kinds of stuff that shows up, and you think, oh wow, this is important, and then he just ignores it.
Yeah.
There's this entire, like, the thing with the I don't know, it's like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre scene, the Three Oranges. It's like issue 30.
Yeah. What was that?
That was one issue of insanity, and then it's like, okay, the comic's over.
Yeah. It had nothing. Next issue, I think there was one line about it. Somebody said one line about it. And
it doesn't matter. You know,
yeah, it doesn't matter. That issue could have just been cut out completely. Yeah. And there's also later on too. I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff in the last half of the series that's pretty disconnected. The issues are disconnected from each other, and they bounce around a lot. But you get Julie telling this story about a girl called Megan, who everyone assumes is, you know, she's just talking about herself and just lying, you know, about the name.
Exactly. Yeah. This friend of mine. Yeah.
Yeah, this friend of mine. But there's two issues of that, and it's just like, what is this? Because then you get one issue, and then you think, okay, it's going to continue. No, it's not next issue. Next issue is ignored. You just ignore all that and move on to something else. And then finally he comes back to it a few issues like, just did not know.
Yeah. But it's really neat how he weaves it in, though, and it kind of, none of it, even though it's almost like you don't care. It's like none of that resolves. The stuff with the guy in the diapers, like this sort of kidnapping thing, none of it resolves. But, you know, it all kind of contributes to the characters that you are reading about and that you do care about. Somehow, it's like they're either telling
the landscape. Yeah, and I think it was the psychological landscape of the thing, because I think what another really great, interesting thing about the book is that it's not just about. Some people write teen angst really well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sam Kieth has the teen angst. He has the middle-aged. He has the senior citizens. He has everyone from every walk of life, and he has kind of gotten into the heads of all of them. It's not really a book that's aimed at any one age group, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So sometimes when they have that weird thing about the couple that get kidnapped and then tortured by the guy wearing the diaper, that's just another type of person in this huge cast of types. I shouldn't say types, but this huge cast of characters and different psychological makeups that he has over the course of the series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, some of these things that he introduces and then doesn't come back to may have been intended as something that he was going to do with, I don't know if you know about the Friends of Max.
Yeah, I heard about this, right? It was like, was it 3 issues or something?
I think it was supposed to be something that was ongoing.
Okay.
I don't even remember if it ever came out. I think something came out of it.
No, I read some of yours, so I read at least 1 or 2.
Yeah, that's about what I'm thinking. Like, I'm thinking maybe like like 2 or 3 of them actually were published that I am aware of. But I mean, we didn't read them for this, and I wonder if maybe some of that stuff that he introduced was sort of planned as being this thing, and I also kind of, and this is sort of away from the comic and more into the sort of, not the industry, but maybe the company. I mean, who knows what was going on with Image and with Sam Kieth himself in terms of, all right, we want you to, you know, we can't call this the Maxx because you're not writing about the Maxx anymore, you know, or
right,
you know, which I think is completely irrelevant, but you know, whatever.
I think there was definitely retail pressure. I read somewhere that, you know, the retailers wanted him to call Friends of Max. He didn't want it to have Max in the title.
Right. Yeah.
The retailers are like, no, it's got to have Maxx in the title. So he compromised on that, and he did call it Friends of Maxx.
Sure. And obviously the whole thing just kind of went poof ultimately anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So I think there are maybe some kinds of some sort of retail pressures or outside pressures that were kind of influencing what happened in the Maxx and sort of how it went.
Mm-hmm.
But that aside, here's the book we have.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the retail pressures, let's talk about the crossovers at the beginning. Because we have these kind of distracting Image crossovers, like crossovers to other Image characters, which are kind of embarrassing reading it now. 20 years later. Like there's a crossover with Savage Dragon and a Savage Dragon villain. Early like issue 6 or 7, and then there's a crossover with the Pit for two issues.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know what to say about it. I'm trying to think. I've seen other books where they started out being kind of super heroic, and then the book realized, the creators realized this is not what I want to do, and they kind of moved on from that. And I don't know what state of mind, who was doing what, that they decided that this was what should happen in the Maxx.
And I think also maybe the worst one actually that you didn't mention is Mako.
Yeah, the Shark Man. Yeah.
I guess you said Savage Dragon. Apparently he was like a Savage Dragon
villain.
Second-rate villain or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, but they are embarrassing. Sam Kieth writes them into the story. I think actually the 2 issues with Pit are sort of there's like some really big, big reveals, but in terms of the story of the Maxx, there's a lot of discovery going on in those 2 issues. And Pit is really, he doesn't need to be there for one thing, and he's kind of in the way.
Yeah.
Because those 2 issues take, like, a lot of that happens in the Outback, and at this point of the series, probably Sam Kieth as well as the reader are really just kind of, what is the Outback? Oh, okay, now here we're getting a lot of it, and I hear what you're saying, and also, especially now reading it, 20 years later, who the hell is the Pit? Because the thing is, the series is so self-contained, which is another reason I'm surprised that people don't talk about it more, because you can just read the whole thing and be done. Yeah.
And yet there are certain things that take it outside of itself. Just think how much better it would read as a whole if you took out those little crossover bits. It's kind of like when the Justice League showed up in those early issues of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. It'd just be so much better if they weren't there and you just have this complete object that you could read beginning to end.
Yeah. It really, those issues really felt like somebody came to Kieth and said, "Here, put this in your book."
Yeah, I don't know, but at the same time, maybe at the time it was I think Image was very pally. At the time, everybody was chummy with everybody else, and you're like, let me borrow the Maxx for an issue. Yeah, let's trade. I'll give you the Pit. You do this, and it was all about we own our characters and we can do whatever we want with them and put them in each other's books and have fun or whatever. And maybe he was having fun with it.
Sure, yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah,
at the time, but I think in the end he obviously damaged his own project.
Because with the Pit cameo crossover, whatever you want to call it, they actually sort of brought in some story from the Pit. I can't remember the name of the kid, but
Timmy,
the Pit looks at the Timmy. Like in the Pit comic, the Pit was this kind of, I don't know, he was like an assigned guardian to this kid. There was some connection, like a spirit connection between the kid and the Pit. I can't remember it, to be honest now, but anyway, in the issue in which the Pit shows up in the Maxx, when the Pit looks at the he sees them all as Timmy or whatever the kid's name was, and there's this sort of thing like, oh my God, like it's all Timmy, and it's this real kind of moment for the Pit, and it's like, well, yeah, if you read the Pit, it'd be kind of like, ooh, that's cool.
Yeah. Right.
So
Exactly.
I guess that's why to me it feels like this. Maybe a kinder way to put it is to say like it's like a cross promotion or whatever.
Yeah.
Like they're kind of buddy.
I don't
They're
think
helping each other.
I don't think that's kinder. I think that's much worse.
Okay. But anyway, they're at least helping each other.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Basically, those cameos just embarrassing, and 20 years later.
Yeah.
Take them out. Redraw those pages, Sam.
Yeah. Redraw them. Yeah, or cut them out. Well, I wonder. Yeah. Well, on the total opposite end of it, I think Sam Kieth. I mean, you have to wonder about Sam Kieth reading the book, because everybody's in such pain and anguish on some level about something.
Right.
How deep did Sam Kieth go into himself? And even just on the level of the art, because I think he creates this world of the subconscious, the outback, basically so he can draw whatever he wants, I think. And he just draws whatever he wants. The panels are whatever shape he wants them. He just draws the hell of it. And then, as you said, maybe later on he goes back and picks something up. Like, okay, I gotta write a plot, so I'm gonna pull something out of this. Because some issues are just complete dream logic. But they're just like running through. Like there's this one where they think they're under deck chairs or something, and it's like all quilted.
Yes.
The water's coming up from the ceiling, and you're just like, okay, it's just all random. And, it's almost like, did Sam Kieth go in? Is he drawing a dream that he had almost?
Yeah.
And then a few issues later, he's like, okay, what can I get out of this to put into this character or something like that?
This is Sarah's outback.
Yeah. Right. And then he finds something, okay, well, he'll find some abuse thing and some angle of abuse, and it has something to do with the memory of the quilter. He'll tie it all together somehow. But my feeling was that even at the level of art was, even as crazy as it seemed, I felt like it was deeply, deeply personal.
It really feels that way, and I especially go to later in issue 26, and this is the issue in which Mr. Gone is so actually if you cover of the issue, the origin of Mr. Gone.
Oh geez, yeah. This one.
And this is the one with the kid is like staring up at the patterns on the ceiling or the wallpaper.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about giving too much away, but I mean, this is childhood sexual abuse.
Yeah.
Which later leads into spousal abuse. From numerous directions, alcoholism, suppression. I mean, it's one of the. I mean, this it makes me think of, like, you mentioned Alan Moore. I'll do it too. This makes me think of Alan Moore's what is it? A Small Killing?
Yeah.
Is that the title? Yeah. There's this entire book about like an abortion kind of thing.
Yeah.
And this issue 26 of the Maxx is on the same level, or like Blue Velvet or something. I mean, it's upsetting to read this shit. It's so heavy.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best single issues of any comic ever.
It's in terms of how, if it affects you in an emotional way, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's super hard going. Yeah.
Yeah. And just to go back to what you were saying, is that the reason I mentioned that issue is that absolutely reading that issue, I'm like, man, like this has got to come from somewhere personal, or the guy's just a brilliant writer.
Well, this is the thing, is because how did he do this for Mr. Gone and for the teenagers and for seniors? Like, how did he? I could kind of understand if he was targeting, if he was writing about a guy that was almost exactly the same age as him, or in the same same economic status or whatever. But he's writing about everybody, and he's quite deep in all of them, although this is the one that he goes deeper than anybody else.
Yeah. Or is he just using cliches really effectively? I mean, sometimes reading this book, I feel like it's pulling the heartstrings in the same way that a Disney film does, And I mean, I don't mean that as a diss of Sam Kieth at all, but or of Disney.
Yeah,
some of our
I think that may be the case. I felt it's a strange thing to say, but I felt gullible reading it. Like I felt like I was falling for it. Like and I felt emotional enough about it that I didn't want to go deep into it and see if he really was just writing cliches, because some of that high school stuff, like he writes about that girl having her first period in the library, and I'm like, okay, Sam Kieth has never had his first period in the library.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. He's never menstruated in a library, so on the bench, and had to find some way to escape or whatever. And I thought, okay, maybe this is cliche, but I was so affected that I didn't want to ruin that.
Because and it was so touching how that did play out,
Yeah, and because the thing is, how often do you really react emotionally to any work of art? And it's something that I've been, especially the last 10 years, been trying to recapture, is try to feel more emotional about things and be less analytical about them. Just so I can feel more. It's even then, it's still very rare to actually feel something very strongly. But I did feel quite often in the Maxx. If I wasn't feeling confusion, then I was feeling, pretty upset about the way people's lives were playing out.
Yeah. It's definitely a question there, and one that. It bears asking. I totally sympathize with you when you say you almost don't want to, because it is a beautiful and kind of beautiful, but also not so beautiful, a beautiful and ugly experience. But yeah, I do find myself often kind of questioning what's happening. Is it just manipulation? Is it kind of cheap manipulation, or is it really getting into something? And I'm leaning towards that latter option. I really think that he does have an ability to kind of get into things.
Yeah. Well, even if it is cheap manipulation, I think he doesn't know it is.
He certainly it certainly doesn't seem like he's just, hey, I'm going to write a story.
I think judging from the letters pages, and the intensity of the hundreds of people writing classifieds, people reacted. Those who were reading it, whoever they were out there, had a very strong reaction to it as well. I think Kieth, the way he addressed the readers, I think he felt that he was quite serious about it. I don't think he saw it as saw that he was writing a cliche, but again, at the same time, I think he was working very fast and just writing what came in his head, which is why he had those plot problems where he had to come back and fix things, he had missed before. So he might have been writing cliche and not realizing, but he might have himself recognized that a little bit later on.
Possibly, yeah.
Coming up, how does the Maxx come up short? The animated version of the Maxx and more.
Hello, I'm Ken Holzhauser, and if you're looking for something new in comic books, may I recommend my newest comic, The Quick and the Dad, a love letter to the DC, Marvel, Archie, and Harvey comics of my youth. This comic has everything. It has spaceships, dad jokes, alien invasions, time travel, supervillains, and so many bad puns. Hopefully you'll like it. It's the cutest comic you've never heard of, and it's available today in print and digital from indieplanet.com. That's The Quick and the Dad. Join that other dynamic duo, won't you?
The third season of the 1960s Batman TV show is almost universally regarded as the worst of the three for a variety of reasons. It is notable for having far more female villains than the other two seasons, plus a female superhero in the form of Batgirl. But far from being a feminist statement, it seems to bring out the male chauvinism in 1960s culture all the more. On our Patreon show Bat Bits, my brother Paul and I recently talked with novelist Nancy Northcott about two of Batman's cringiest episodes from a feminist point of view, as part of our series discussing the portrayal of women throughout the series. And coming up on the show, we'll be discussing the long-delayed third issue of Batman Meets Godzilla. We'll spend more time on how the recaps at the start of episodes were constructed, dig into more early drafts of Batman scripts, and more. Get access to Bat Bits by supporting our Patreon at $2 a month. At $4 a month, you also get our monthly show Silver Age Batman, where we're looking at many of the wacky Batman stories from the 50s. This month, Paul and I look at the return of Batwoman in The Challenge of Batwoman from Batman 105. Also at the $4 level, you can still access our past series that covered the first 50 issues of Amazing Spider-Man and more. Follow our Patreon for free and get access to the first 2 episodes of both Bat-Bits and Silver Age Batman. Check it out at patreon.com/deconcomics, and thanks for your support.
Now, you also wanted to say that there were some things that were genius and some things that were not. Have you covered that, or was there something specifically that you thought was the opposite of genius?
There are sequences which do not really flow smoothly, and I mean from panel to panel or from page to page, and sometimes even like plot point to plot point, which we've alluded to already, where things happen, you're kind of confused. But sometimes it seems to be not so much that it's a mystery thing or a weirdness like Sam Kieth thing, but it's an actual sort of like a flaw in the writing that's just like from this panel, or the writing or the crafting of the comic, I should say.
Yeah.
From this panel to this panel, I can't follow what's happened.
Yeah, right.
Or in this panel, character A says Mr. C hit Mr. D. And then on the next page, suddenly they're referring to that time that Mr. D hit Mr. C. And you go back and you're like, well, wait, I thought they said Mr. C hit Mr. D.
Okay, yeah.
Like just little like mistakes.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing sort of seems to crop up a little bit from time to time, and it's
Isn't it inevitable?
I suppose it is.
Given that what he's dealing with, as soon as you put metaphysicality in anything, you can change the rules whenever you want.
Yeah.
From panel to panel, page to page. And the way he draws, because we haven't talked about the art much. But we have mentioned a bit about the crazy panel shapes, and I think he may have been more influential than we realized too, because I noticed how much the other image artists seem to rip off, because it's almost like he ripped up a piece of paper and then pasted those down on the page, and those are his panel shapes, and then he drew in the rips. You know what I mean? That craziness. I think because he allowed himself to not be restrained in those ways, maybe it was inevitable that it was going to be hard to understand. There would be kind of almost not even hard to understand errors, as you say. In progression.
And there's another aspect of this actually that I'll mention. So if you've listened to this podcast, you've heard Tim and Mullally also. Sorry, not just this podcast, but the critiquing comics as well. Often I've heard them say things like, regarding mysteries, don't make me wait. Like, don't tease me in issue 1 and say, we're going to tell you something really amazing in issue 15.
Yeah.
Sam Kieth does that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he does it on purpose, but it's like one of the first times that Mr. Gone and Max have a confrontation. Mr. Gone very, very mysteriously says, Julie Winters is the real character here. Your story, Max, is just embarrassing. And then he doesn't tell you why for like 20 issues. And then also when another point they're fighting. And Max is really strong in the outback, and Mr. Gone is he can feel that the Max is going to overpower him, and he says, "Stop fighting me," and then he says, "Mommy."
Yeah.
And that word stops the Max. And I'm talking, this is like issue 5 or something. I that's not an accurate issue number, but it's in the first 10.
Yeah.
And then I think it's issue 32.
Yeah, or even later maybe. Maybe in 35.
Well,
maybe
sorry, that's what I meant. I meant 35. Sorry, I got my 35s mixed up. Yeah, basically issue 35 when Mr. Gon says, "This is why that word stopped him." Like,
yeah, right.
So okay, so there's a point. Like, we're just talking about kind of how not to write a comic according to the Critiquing Comics podcast, which we're kind of part of here. So there's that. And there was another one. Sorry. Yeah. So the other point was maybe not something from Critiquing Comics, but something that I thought was important. When you're reading a narrative, you want your characters to have, I don't know if this is the right word, agency. You want them to have...
yes.
Like,
to be proactive in some way.
Right, but also what they do is supposed to be important, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's why you're reading The Maxx, is because you want to know what The Maxx does.
Yeah.
Okay, well, in near the end of the first story arc, the story of Julie and The Maxx, around issues 18, 19, 20, sort of in there, they're in the outback, and the Leopard Queen and the Maxx are being chased by this creature called the Huli, which is like the size of a mountain. And Max wakes it up by being an idiot. They are riding a flying rock that they can't control. Max awakes the Huli kind of accidentally. It chases them as they ride this flying rock that they can't control. Now, the previous issue, Max had accidentally knocked a rock off of the mountain, and the Leopard Queen's like, "Oh, that rock is going to fly back to my house, and then it's going to fly back here, and as it flies back here, it's going to increase in mass," because these are the rules that the world operates on. And it's just going to get really big and crush us. And Max is like, "Oh yeah, whatever." And anyway, and then he wakes up the Huli, and then the Huli chases them, and they're going to die. They get back to the Leopard Queen's castle, and then the Huli goes away because of the big rock. That I mean, I don't even remember. I can't remember. But
I think the rock hit him or something, didn't it?
The rock hit it, or it was distracted. So yeah, I think the rock hit it. Anyway, the whole point is, for 2 issues, there's this like climactic thing where they go to this mountain, which is really, really important. It's actually apparently the mountain in which the Max dipped his claws in the lava to, it's just like so important. But nothing that the characters do in 2 issues. Sorry. Everything they do is important, but it's not important because they try to do it.
None of it's in their control.
It's all accidental.
Yeah.
Now, for me reading that, I'm like, this is terrible. Like, if you were, we've talked about D&D before, you and I, so I'm going to talk about it now. If you're running a game of D&D and your players are doing stuff that don't matter, like this, this is a horrible session of D&D. And it seems to me that this is also kind of a horrible way to write a story. However, I can't just say this is horrible. Like, is this kind of a metaphor for the entire comic? Like, is it?
Well, think about it, because nobody, in a way, it is, because how many of the characters have been abused in youth or live in circumstances that are beyond their control? Even Megan, the quote-unquote fictional character at the end, is living with her grandparents and can't escape out of that situation, and she can't escape the situation of her body as it begins changing. Everything is out, and she sees this woman, and she falls in love with her and has this almost physical reaction. It's nothing, none of the characters, everyone's been forged out of something that happened in their youth by an adult when they did not have power.
Yeah.
So in a sense, that is what the whole book is about. But there is something wrong with it happening in those issues with the Huli and stuff. But I will address one of the things about the waiting for the plot to develop. Is I think this goes back to what the question I've been asking since the beginning is, how much did he plan? Because I feel like, especially in some of those early issues, he wrote the issue and he was done. He thought, okay, that's the end of that. And he didn't actually have like, for example, he describes the Outback once, And he says, okay, this is what it is. It's a person's subconscious. And he's like, oh, wait a second. 5 issues later, he's like, maybe I want to refine that. So he comes back and he adds some more. Reading it through quickly, it feels like he made you wait 5 issues. But actually, maybe 20 years ago, you'd read that issue and it was done,
Yeah.
Which also makes me want to ask, how did you react differently this time compared to last time? If you remember how you felt about it last time.
I think that's interesting. It is tough to remember precisely, but I think basically I had a very similar reaction. Reading it through this time, I was basically just kind of reminded, like, yeah, I loved this comic, and I continued to buy this comic for its entire 35 issues for these reasons. I love the weirdness of Sam Kieth. I love that on one page, Julie Winters looks like a pinup, and on the next page, she looks like a cartoon character drawn by an 8-year-old. Like, I love how, and the thing is that he is using those different styles of expression to reflect things about the character, either the way that they're feeling, like when Julie is feeling sort of exasperated or whatever, she doesn't just physically kind of let her belly out and slouch and sort of it's not just that she does that. He doesn't just draw her doing that, but the style in which he draws her doing that is completely different. And I love all that weirdness that he does. And it's not only in the Max; it's also in Epicurus and other stuff. Yeah,
and there's a range of art styles here too, which we haven't mentioned. Like he's able to do pretty amazing Frazetta copies.
Oh my God!
At times, which is unreal. And the cover designs are incredibly striking as well. I really enjoyed the book without really understanding it a lot of the time. Did you feel that you related to the older characters more this time than you did last time?
I think this time I'm sure I read it like 2 or 3 times back when it came out, and as it came out I probably reread certain issues. But when you do that, of course, I read like issues 1 to 20 like 7 times. I never read the ending probably more than once or twice, and so this time, kind of going back, like the whole last 2 or 3 issues. I think Mr. Gone begins narrating maybe 33 or 32, like one of the final issues. He says this happened 3 days before the end of the world.
Yeah.
That's melodramatic, isn't it?
Yeah.
So anyway, so basically that whole sort of end that denouement, I guess, that really kind of connected and brought the whole thing together for me in a way that I don't remember experiencing. So it wasn't so much that I was relating to different characters, but the way that I sort of consumed the entire story. Definitely was much better. I think this would be an excellent trade paperback or collection, as opposed to just the issues.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the big thing for me coming back to it now.
Okay.
And also, I recognize that Tony Iommi was mentioned in issue 24.
Yeah, right. There's
that's important.
1 or 2 other cool references I can't remember at the moment. But should we give away a bit of the ending, or it's not really, maybe not even necessary, because it's just as weird as everything else anyway. I don't know. I wasn't really that climactic in a sense, because he got so distracted by doing all those other character studies in between. They kind of detours from the series reaching its quote-unquote natural conclusion. And I felt like after about issue 20, especially after the Julie arc, even by issue 17, after that I was like, well, it's kind of dragging on a bit. Maybe he should have been a bit more strict with himself about cutting it short.
Yeah, I don't think there's really any need to spoil the ending, and I do think that the ending, without being spoiled, is going to be more satisfying for any of our listeners who actually do go and read it. And I hope somebody does.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is definitely one of my favorite books.
Yeah. Now, despite all of the super weirdness of it, we haven't mentioned that somehow this thing got turned into a cartoon on MTV.
Yes, and I got the DVD for my birthday this year.
Okay, and did you watch it?
Thank you, Melissa. I bought the VHS copy, so I do own the animated show, which I've seen before. But yeah, no, my friend who has got probably my physical issues right now actually sent me a DVD copy of the MTV animated movie, I guess it is, which I haven't watched again yet. No. Should have done that before this show. But yeah, it was made into this air quotes, animated movie.
Do any details, like how many episodes it was, or any impressions at all of it?
I think basically it was the Julie arc, and I don't even know if it was the entirety of the Julie arc, but basically that's what it was. It was looking at that first part of the comic book. I think the voice acting was fine and stuff. Well, one thing that's really striking about it is that it's almost not animated. It's almost like they've just taken art from the comic and kind of like montaged it or whatever. That's not a verb.
Yeah, right.
But I verbed it.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, they have basically just kind of taken stills from the comic and kind of put it together. And there's some kind of clumsy animated bits, but and yeah, it's almost like kind of like a Sin City type of thing where they sort of used the comic as the script for the show. You know? Let's just verbatim kind of have these actors read.
Max, what a weird choice to do that, to turn into and to do it verbatim. Like, I would have thought they would have done some kind of Saturday morning Hanna-Barbera thing with it, you know what I mean? Like, I thought the executives would have just chewed it up and spat it out as this unrecognizable thing. But I think in the early, that's the thing, is that it changed so much, and that those early issues were kind of wacky and offbeat without being like issue 26, this incredibly personal account, or maybe not personal, I shouldn't say, but like a harrowing account of sexual abuse, of experiencing sexual abuse. He hadn't gotten to that point yet, so I think that those early issues of the Maxx were something that were kind of saleable, attractive to that teen angst or tween angst sort of crowd. I mean, certainly that's. I mean, when 95, when this came out, I was in my early 20s, like reading it and kind of angst, being all like alternative. I'm not into the Batman animated show. I'm into the Maxx animated show. So I think there's definitely an appeal there, and I can kind of see maybe the. But yeah, it's a bit of a weird choice, but at the same time, sure, going for a bit of an alternative thing. Yeah. So how are we gonna, are we gonna sum it up, or is it not summable? I want to say that it's at times it's powerful. It's hard to understand. It's a bit of a slow going at the end, maybe.
Yeah.
But I really did. I got a kick out of it. I really loved it.
Yeah, I would almost verbatim echo those final thoughts of yours. But I do like to talk, so definitely a flawed book in perhaps like technical ways. I think if you did go through it in that analytical sense, that you could sort of point out many various little flaws. But as an emotional experience, as an experience of a work of art, it is something that is effective in taking you somewhere. That the artist here, Sam Kieth has effectively taken me on a journey that I don't think he had planned out.
Yeah.
But he took me to some pretty deep places. Or he took me deep. Sorry, I should not. He took me to deep places. He took me deeply into the characters and the story that he was telling, and
sometimes
all of
frivolous.
Sometimes frivolous. Yeah, there's all kinds of just like, I'm Sam Kieth and I want to draw some vegetable predators.
Yeah.
Basically, there's all kinds of loose ends, but I think if you pick up Maxx #1 and read to the end of Maxx 35, when you put down that last book, you feel that you've been taken on a complete journey, and it does wrap up really nicely. And it's a ride for sure. I mean, man, Sam Kieth does Sam Kieth pretty well.
Yeah.
The Maxx was originally published by Image, and collected editions came out from IDW. It doesn't appear to be in print or available from Comixology currently, but plenty of used copies are available, and sometimes they're affordably priced. Follow us on Blue Sky at Decon Comics. Join our Facebook page or the more active group. Listen to our audio-only videos on YouTube. All of those are linked from deconstructingcomics.com, as is our voicemail. You can communicate with us via social media or drop us a line at mail@deconstructingcomics.com. And of course, we'd love it if you shared episodes with your friends and left us a review in Apple Podcasts or other podcast outlets. Are you making a comic? Send it to us and we'll do a Critiquing Comics episode about it. Our theme is by J.B. Anderton. The music backing the promotion of our Patreon is Change by Jazar. Recently, we represented an episode from 14 years ago where Kumar and I looked at early issues of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. 7 years later, which is 7 years ago, Kum was joined by Daryl Epp to discuss the next tranche of stories, issues 38 to 50, and we'll represent that episode here next week. Also, are we going to keep up this accidental tradition of talking about Alan Moore's Swamp Thing every 7 years? Stay tuned. Till next week, this is Tim, and thanks for listening to Deconstructing Comics.